When Earth's massive warship arrived in the Zanari system, the entire galaxy froze. The Galactic Union had always seen humans as unimportant, a small race from a distant corner of space. Useful for fighting, trading, and working, but never as real power. That changed the moment the warship appeared. The vessel was nothing like the elegant ships of the Elv or the flowing organic designs of the Zith. This ship was brutal. Sharp angles, thick armor, and weapons covering every surface. It showed strength, not beauty. 2 other warships flanked it, and together they looked more dangerous than anything the Union had ever encountered. They came because the Drath Collective, a powerful insectoid empire controlling half the galaxy, had made a fatal mistake. They destroyed a human colony, expecting Earth to surrender like every other race before them. Instead, they got this show of force. The Union's leaders scrambled. They sent frantic messages to their allies. The Drath, however, laughed. Humans were nothing but pests. They gathered their fleets to crush whatever Earth would throw at them. Then the warships opened fire. The first blast shattered the lead Drath battleship instantly. Shields that had survived centuries of war crumbled like paper under the power of human weapons. The Union watched in shock as humans showed something no one believed possible. Technology beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Plasma weapons burned through metal. Kinetic projectiles the size of cities punched through enemy formations like they were made of glass. Railguns fired projectiles at nearly light speed, destroying entire fleets in seconds. The Drath called for help. Hundreds of warships raced to stop the human attack. It made no difference. Earth had studied the galaxy for centuries. They had learned every weakness, every tactic. When they finally acted, they didn't just catch up to the other powers. They surpassed all of them in a single brutal moment. Then came a message broadcast across the entire Union. Earth does not forget. Earth does not forgive. Stay out of our way. The galaxy fell silent in horror. The Drath fleet lay in ruins, burning wreckage drifting through space. The battle had lasted less than an hour, but its effects would echo for centuries. The Union's High Council sat in stunned silence. Their screens showed the battle footage over and over. None of them had expected this. Ambassador Jir of the Elvar, a leader whose species had controlled galactic politics for thousands of years, was the first to speak. "We have made a terrible mistake," he admitted. "Humanity was not what we believed." The insectoid delegate from the Cathari clicked nervously. They destroyed an entire battle group. The Drath had nearly 100 warships. The humans had 3. "Just 3, said Grand Marshal Sorak of the Thales, his face tense. The council fell silent. Humanity had never been seen as a real military power. Their fleets were supposed to be old and weak. Yet here they stood on top of the ruins of one of the most feared empires in the galaxy. But it was not just their victory that terrified the council. It was how they fought. Other species had abandoned kinetic weapons long ago in favor of energy weapons. Humans had mastered both. Their ships fired massive slugs of ultra-dense metal at incredible speeds, tearing through shields that should have been unbreakable. They did not disable enemy ships. They destroyed them completely, reducing them to drifting debris in seconds. They did not come for negotiations, one representative whispered. They did not ask for anything. They did not even officially declare war. They came for revenge, agreed a voice in the shadows. Then a new message arrived. The council expected demands or threats. Instead, they received a cold statement. We will not seek war with the Union. We will not expand beyond our borders. But if any of you touch another human world, we will do to your fleets what we did to the Drath. Silence followed. The feed cut out. Humans were not claiming territory. They were not demanding payment. They had simply proved a point with brutal force. Every government in the galaxy now whispered the same terrifying thought. What if humans want more? The Drath homeworld, once a fortress packed with their kind, now sat empty. Not destroyed, the warship had left it untouched. The message had been received. The Drath survivors surrendered before humans even reached their system. Their leaders fled. Their military was reduced to wreckage. Their remaining ships refused to fight. Some even offered themselves to other powers just to avoid Earth's anger. But the galaxy's fear came from more than just the Drath's destruction. It came from how fast it happened. Every species knew of wars lasting decades, fleets clashing for months, battles fought over small pieces of space. But humans had ended an empire in hours. They did not fight a war. They carried out a sentence. Every ruler now asked the same question. What else are humans hiding? The Union worked frantically to understand Earth's power. They read intelligence reports. They sent spies. They bribed traitors. They even begged human diplomats for answers. Nothing came back, and that terror went deeper still, because the humans had not even used their full fleet. The 3 warships were just a fraction of Earth's power. No one knew where the rest of their ships were. No one knew how many vessels they had or what weapons they carried. For the first time in history, the galaxy was not afraid of an empire trying to conquer it. They were afraid of an empire that had no interest in conquest at all. An empire that only acted when provoked, but when it did, nothing survived. The Alvari Confederation quietly pulled their patrols back from human space. The Kari, who once enslaved human prisoners, suddenly ended all forced labor. The Zith, known for staying neutral, refused to speak about humans at all. Even the Union's government did nothing, because they all knew the truth. If humanity ever decided to truly go to war, nothing could stop them. Silence spread across the stars. No species dared to provoke humans. For the first time, a single force had become untouchable. Deep within the Sol system, on a secret space station hidden behind Jupiter's shadow, Earth's war commanders sat around a table. Unlike the panicked councils of the Union, these men and women stayed eerily calm. They had expected this outcome. Admiral Jonathan Hayes, who had designed humanity's modern military strategy, leaned forward. "The Union is afraid," he said simply. That was the point. Around him sat the minds behind Earth's power. Generals, strategists, scientists. No one celebrated. There were no toasts. Humanity had won a battle, but their real war was just beginning. A woman with sharp features cleared her throat. "The Drath are destroyed. Their economy will collapse in months. Smaller factions are already taking their territory." Hayes nodded. That was expected. When the Drath showed weakness, others would circle like hungry predators. That was how power worked out here. Another officer spoke next. "The Union hasn't moved against us yet, but we've intercepted messages between the Elver and the Zith. They're running war simulations against Earth." A smirk crossed Hayes' face. "And none of their models show them winning." A quiet laugh spread through the room. Not from joy, from the dark certainty of soldiers who knew a terrible truth. Hayes leaned back, linking his fingers. "Then we proceed as planned." The woman across from him narrowed her eyes. "You think they'll test us?" "They always do," Hayes said. "Fear doesn't last forever. Eventually someone gets brave. They'll think we got lucky against the Drath. They'll believe we don't have enough ships for a long war. They'll think they can unite against us." His smirk disappeared. His voice turned cold. "And when they do, we remind them why the galaxy should fear us." The room went silent. There was no bloodlust in their faces. No cruelty in their words. Just certainty. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once. They would not get another chance. The destruction of the Drath fleet sent ripples through every star system. Every major empire, every council, every warlord had the same thought. What have we done? For centuries, humanity had been treated as an afterthought. A species trapped in a small corner of space, barely keeping up with the great powers. Useful as mercenaries and traitors, but never feared. Not until now. Admiral Hayes knew that fear alone would not hold the galaxy forever. He sat in Earth's secret command station, watching intelligence reports scroll past. The Union was rattled, but that was not the same as defeated. Rattled meant they were thinking. It meant they were planning. Eventually it meant they would act. The war with the Drath had been an execution, not a war. The next war, the one Hayes knew was coming, would be different. Commander Elise Carter approached him, her expression grim. "We've detected more fleet movements along our borders." "Which factions?" Hayes asked. "The Alvari Confederation and the Zith Dominion are strengthening their defensive lines," Carter replied. "We've also intercepted a Union-wide transmission." She touched her screen and a message appeared. The recording showed High Chancellor Orland, one of the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. His voice was measured but heavy with worry. "The events at Proxima and Tori have shown us a terrible truth. Humanity possesses weapons beyond anything we have prepared for. Their fleet, once thought to be primitive, can destroy on an unprecedented scale. We must not let fear divide us. We must stand together. We must ensure such a force is never released upon this galaxy again." Hayes snorted. "They're uniting against us," Carter nodded. "It's only a matter of time before they try something." "They're scared," Hayes said simply. But fear breeds desperation. They won't stay idle forever. They'll try to steal our secrets. They'll try to infiltrate our systems. Maybe they'll even launch a preemptive strike. We're watching all possible intrusions, Carter assured him. No ships have entered our space yet. Hayes stood and walked to the massive window overlooking Jupiter's storms. The black station was invisible to the naked eye, hidden deep in the planet's radiation belt, undetectable by any known sensors. It was the heart of humanity's war machine, the place where their most dangerous projects were created in secret. What about our own movements? He asked. Carter hesitated. Fleet Command is holding the warship back at Titan Station. But, sir, with respect, the Union won't stay on defense forever. They're building alliances as we speak. If they come at us, they'll do it together. Hayes turned to face her, his expression unreadable. Then we need to make sure they never come at us. Carter frowned. Are you suggesting a preemptive strike? No, Hayes said, not yet. But we need to show them that fear is the correct response, that there is no winning against us. We don't start wars, Carter. We end them before they begin. Carter said nothing, but his words hung heavy between them. The galaxy was waiting to see if humanity would make another move. That was exactly where Hayes wanted them. Begin Ghost Fleet Protocol, he ordered. Let's remind the galaxy that no matter where they hide, no matter how many alliances they forge, humanity is always watching. Earth's true war had just begun. The stars belong to humanity now, not through treaties or trade agreements, but through silent, undeniable power, a presence that loomed over every empire, unseen yet impossible to deny. Admiral Hayes intended to keep it that way. Deep inside the black station, the command center hummed with quiet activity. Officers worked in focused silence, processing intelligence, monitoring fleet movements, making sure humanity's watchful eye never blinked. Commander Carter approached Hayes with a grim expression. Sir, the Union has begun moving. Surveillance drones have picked up large fleet exercises near Elvar space. How many ships? Hayes asked. At least 300, Carter replied. Mostly Elvar, but Zith warships are among them too. They're training together, simulating large battles. Their focus is on countering the big warship. Hayes exhaled slowly. Predictable. Fear was a powerful motivator, but it never lasted long. Eventually, paranoia took over. The Union knew they couldn't allow humanity to exist as an unchecked power. They would try to find weaknesses, develop countermeasures, and when they thought they were ready, they would strike. Hayes had already predicted it. Any sign they're planning to move soon? He asked. Not yet, Carter replied. Right now, they're just preparing. But the fact that the Alvari and Zith are working together, that's unprecedented. It means they're serious. Hayes stared at the galactic map hovering in front of them, red markers showing fleet movements. He could already see the pieces moving into position. The Union wanted a war. They just didn't realize they had already lost. Activate Ghost Fleet Protocol, he told Carter. I want silent incursions into their systems. No attacks, no fights. Just surveillance. We're going to know everything before they move. Carter nodded and left to send the order. Hayes clasped his hands behind his back. And bring the big warship to the Kepler defense line. No direct fights, but I want them to see it. Let them know it's waiting. Carter smirked. You want them to hesitate. I want them to understand, Hayes corrected. Before they even think about war, they need to feel the weight of what they're considering. He leaned forward, his voice quiet but firm, because when we strike, it won't be a war. His eyes, cold as space, met hers. It'll be an extinction. In the heart of the Elvari Confederation, High Chancellor Orland sat in his private room watching intelligence reports with growing dread. The footage showed a single warship, a human vessel floating along the border of Union space. The warship. It hadn't moved. It hadn't fired. But it was there like a predator watching its prey. Orland turned to his military advisors. Tell me, he said carefully, do we have any weapon capable of matching that ship? Silence. The gathered officers exchanged nervous glances. None wanted to speak first. Finally, Admiral Korth cleared his throat. No, he admitted. We don't. Orland felt ice in his veins. He had hoped for a different answer. But it didn't matter how many ships they built or how much they trained. The truth remained. Humanity was already at war with them. The Union just hadn't realized it yet. When the warship appeared along the Kepler defense line, the Galactic Union froze. Encrypted messages flooded through hidden channels. High officials whispered in dark rooms. Military analysts worked frantically to understand what it meant. The warship had not crossed into Union space. It had not fired. It simply existed. Yet that alone was enough to push the galaxy toward panic. In the Alvari High Council, Chancellor Orland stood before a holographic display, his eyes locked on the massive vessel floating in the void. Even from millions of kilometers away, its presence was crushing. An aide leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "Sir, our forces remain on high alert. We've positioned 3 fleets along the sector border, but—" He hesitated. "But what?" Orland snapped. The aide swallowed hard. "We have no idea what's inside that ship. We don't even know the extent of human technology." That was the problem. Humanity had revealed only what they wanted the galaxy to see. They had unleashed the big warship against the Drath, yes. But what if that was just a distraction? What if their true weapons, their real warships, were hidden somewhere beyond known space, waiting for the right moment? Orland turned to his military advisors. "Tell me we have something. Some answer." "A countermeasure." A Zith strategist clicked his mandibles. "We've been running battle simulations against the warship. Every scenario ends in total loss." The room fell into silence. Orland clenched his fists. He had prepared for war, but not like this. Not a war where his people were already losing before the first shot was even fired. "We cannot let fear paralyze us," he said finally. "The humans have power, yes, but they do not rule us. If they think they can frighten the Union into surrender, they are wrong." One of the Alvari generals stepped forward. "Do you propose an attack, Chancellor?" Orland hesitated. That was the question, wasn't it? Strike first or wait for the inevitable? Either choice meant death. "No," he said at last, "not yet, but we will prepare." Across the galaxy, preparations for war began. Meanwhile, aboard the big warship, Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge watching the distant Union fleets through the viewport. They were gathering like insects, their ships tiny specks in the darkness, bristling with weapons yet afraid to get closer. "Good," Hayes said simply as Commander Carter approached with data. "Union forces are holding position," she reported. "No aggressive movements. They're afraid," Hayes said. She hesitated. "But fear won't last forever." "No," he agreed. "It won't." That was why Ghost Fleet protocol had already begun. Scattered throughout Union territory, unseen by their sensors, humanity's true power was already at work. Advanced stealth ships cloaked beyond detection infiltrated their systems, listening, watching, mapping every weakness. The moment the Union moved, they wouldn't be fighting the big warship. They wouldn't even be fighting Earth's full fleet. They would be fighting an enemy that already knew their plans, an enemy that had already won. Hayes turned to Carter. "Deploy the next phase. The Union thinks they still have a chance." A slow smile crossed his face. "Let's show them how wrong they are." In the cold depths of space where light barely reached, Ghost Fleet protocol moved forward. No one in the Galactic Union saw them. No sensors detected their approach. No alarm sounded. Humanity's hidden fleet moved like shadows through the void. They were not here to attack. Not yet. They were here to prepare the battlefield before the war even began. Aboard the Union's Central Defense Station, Xerxes Prime, High Chancellor Orland sat in his war room with his top generals and admirals. A massive holographic display showed what they thought were human fleet movements. "The big warship remains near Kepler," an Alvari strategist reported. "Additional human vessels have been detected at their core systems. But there's no indication of full mobilization." A Zith admiral, his mandibles clicking with agitation, interjected. "And that is precisely what concerns me. We have no evidence of a grand fleet, no proof they have more ships like the big one. What if they don't? They must have more." Orland interrupted sharply. "No empire places its strongest weapon on the front lines without backup. The fact that we haven't seen them only means one thing." Silence filled the war room. Finally, an Alvari officer spoke, his voice barely audible. "They're already here." The words hung in the air like a death sentence, because it was the only explanation that made sense. Humanity had revealed its warship, but the true war was being fought in the shadows. Deep inside Zith Dominion space, a Union-controlled refueling station floated in the darkness, supplying ships along major trade routes. Its defenses were standard, enough to stop pirates but not a true assault. The Union was at peace, or at least that's what they believed. Unseen by every watcher, a human stealth ship hung in the void, completely silent. Its hull was coated in experimental materials that absorbed sensor waves, rendering it invisible to all scans. It did not attack. It simply listened. Inside the vessel, Lieutenant Marcus Hall watched as intercepted messages scrolled across his screen. Messages from Union warships, encrypted orders, fleet movements, supply routes. They weren't just gathering intelligence. They were rewriting the war before it even started. A soft chime echoed through the bridge. The data extraction was complete. Hall turned to his team. Send the package to Black Station. Let High Command know where to strike. The information surged through encrypted channels, traveling undetected through the vast galactic network. Within hours, Earth's top strategists would know the location of every major fuel depot, supply station, and weak point in the Union's infrastructure. By the time the Union fired its first shot, they would already be falling apart. Back on the big warship, Admiral Hayes read the latest intelligence from the hidden fleet. His officers waited for his orders, but they already knew what was coming. It's time, Hayes said, his voice calm. Send the next message to the Union. Commander Carter nodded and sent a simple, untraceable signal across all Union channels. A message that needed no explanation. We are already inside your walls, and with that, humanity's war had already begun. Panic spread like fire through the Galactic Union. The message, simple and chilling, had been broadcast across every secure military channel. We are already inside your walls. No one knew where it came from. No transmission logs. No traceable source. It had simply appeared, as if humanity itself had whispered it into their ears. Chancellor Orland stood in his private room staring at the words repeating on his screen. His claws twitched in agitation. What does this mean? He demanded. A Union intelligence officer, his skin paler than usual, swallowed hard. It means they're already here. Orland's blood ran cold. How? How could they have gotten past us so quickly? The officer shook his head. We don't know. There have been no confirmed intrusions, no breaches in our security systems, no sign of human fleets inside our borders, and yet the message was clear. Humans had slipped past the Union's defenses. They weren't attacking. They weren't negotiating. They were simply waiting. It was psychological warfare at its purest. The worst part? It was working. Aboard the big warship, Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge watching data streams from the hidden fleet. Their silent intrusions had gone undetected. Every major fuel station, supply line, and fleet position was now logged in Earth's war database. They knew everything. Commander Carter approached. Union forces are scrambling. Their fleets are repositioning defensively. It's chaos. They don't know where we'll strike. Hayes nodded. Good. They're scared. Carter continued. But fear only buys us time. Eventually they'll take action. Hayes glanced at the galactic map before him. Union forces were spread thin. No central rallying point. No single command hub that could withstand a full attack. If war came, they would shatter like glass, but that was not the plan. Not yet. They'll come to us first, Hayes said. That's what frightened empires do. They don't attack immediately. They probe. They test boundaries. They send spies, maybe even a small fleet to gauge our response. Carter frowned. You're suggesting they'll provoke us? They don't think we're a threat, Commander, Hayes said with a small smirk. They think we're a sleeping giant. They'll try to wound us first. See if we react. Carter's eyes darkened. And when they do? Hayes's voice turned to steel. We won't react. We'll end them before they understand what's happening. He turned back to the display. But first we let them think they have control. Give them space to breathe. Let them believe they're making the right moves. Carter exhaled slowly. We're playing a long game, Hayes nodded. And when the time comes, his eyes gleamed like a predator waiting for the kill. We take everything from them. The Galactic Union was unraveling. In the weeks following humanity's message, the once mighty alliance of empires began to crack. Fear gripped their leaders. Paranoia spread like a disease. No one trusted their own security. No one knew where humans were hiding or if they had already infiltrated the highest levels of government. The worst part? There was no proof of any actual infiltration. No human agents caught. No breaches detected. No sabotage. Yet they all believed it had happened. The Zith Dominion purged hundreds of suspected human spies, only to realize too late they had executed their own intelligence officers. The Elvari Confederation imposed strict security measures, tightening border controls so severely they choked off their own economy. The Union was destroying itself. and Admiral Hayes watched it all unfold from the bridge of the big warship. Inside the Elvari High Council chamber, Chancellor Orland sat at the head of a gleaming table. His advisors gathered before him. The room was dimly lit, an unspoken admission of their desperation. Once proud leaders now whispered like hunted animals. "We must act," an Elvari general said. "We cannot live in humanity's shadow forever." "Agreed," growled a Zith admiral, his mandibles twitching. "We strike now." "Before they strike us, do we even know where to strike?" an intelligence officer countered. "For all we know, they want us to attack. We could be walking into a trap." Orland exhaled sharply. He had ruled the Union for decades, but never had he felt so powerless. "They have made no demands," he said. "They have not declared war. They have not expanded beyond their borders. They have done nothing except wait." The silence was suffocating. That was what terrified them most. If humans had invaded, the Union could have fought back. If they had made demands, negotiations could have begun. But humanity had done neither. They had simply existed, and the Union was losing because of it. Orland clenched his fists. "We need to reclaim control. We will force humanity's hand." The Zith general leaned forward. "You mean provoke them?" "I mean test them," Orland corrected. "Send a fleet to the Kepler defense line. A show of force. Not an attack. Just enough to see how they respond." "And if they respond with the big warship?" someone asked. Orland's face was grim. "Then at least we'll know how they intend to play this war." Meanwhile, aboard the big warship, Commander Carter placed a data screen on the command table. It showed the latest movement of Union forces. A fleet of nearly 200 warships had begun moving toward Kepler defense line. Admiral Hayes studied the data in silence. "They won't attack," he said finally. "Not yet, this is a test," Carter nodded. "They want to see if we'll back down." A slow smirk crossed Hayes' face. "Then let's teach them what happens when you test humanity." He turned to his officers. "Deploy Project Revenant. Let them see what they should be afraid of." Carter's eyes widened slightly. "Are you sure? We haven't revealed it yet." Hayes' voice was calm and certain. "It's time. The Union needs to learn that the big warship isn't the worst thing humanity has built." Hours later, at the Kepler defense line, the Union fleet arrived in formation. Weapons powered but not armed, an unmistakable show of force. Then they saw it. A new ship, larger than anything the galaxy had ever encountered. A monstrous void-black warship. Its hull absorbed light like a tear in space. It made the big warship look small. No records existed of its creation. No intelligence reports had ever mentioned it. It had never been seen before. The Union fleet, despite its numbers, hesitated. Then the ship spoke. "You were standing at the edge of your own destruction." The message rang across all channels. Cold, emotionless. The Union fleet, once so confident in their show of strength, found themselves staring into the unknown, and for the first time, they understood the truth. Humanity had never needed to fight them. Humanity had already won. Aboard the Union command ship Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Vra of the Elvari Confederation swallowed hard. His fingers hovered over the controls, but he hesitated. He had been a soldier for decades, had fought wars against ruthless enemies. Yet in this moment he felt like an insect staring into the jaws of a predator. "Orders, Admiral?" one of his officers asked, her voice barely audible. Vra's mind raced. What was this thing? Another superweapon? A planet killer? The big warship had already been terrifying, but this was something else entirely. And humanity had never mentioned it. They had kept this hidden until now. Vra forced himself to regain control. "Open a channel." A chime confirmed the link. "This is Admiral Vra of the Galactic Union," he said. "Identify yourself." Silence. Then the ship's voice returned. "Your name is irrelevant. Your rank is meaningless. Your fleet is insufficient." Beaver's blood ran cold. This wasn't negotiation. This wasn't diplomacy. This was a warning. And it wasn't just directed at him. It was meant for everyone in the Union. Every instinct screamed at Vra to retreat, to take his fleet and run. But he knew the consequences. If he backed down now, the Union would lose all credibility. Humanity had already shown power beyond comprehension. But the moment the Union admitted defeat, they would become nothing more than servants under Earth's shadow. He had no choice. "Hold position," Vra ordered. "We are not here for war." Another moment of silence passed. Then the ship's voice returned. Then you should leave. The command was not shouted. It was not accompanied by charging weapons or attack formations. It was simply stated as a fact, one that carried the weight of an unspoken threat. Brett clenched his fists. He wanted to respond with anger, to demand answers, to prove the Union would not be intimidated. But his sensors told a different story. There were no life signs aboard the warship, no heat signatures, no biological readings. This ship was not crewed, which meant it was something else entirely. The implications shook him to his core. Wara's officers waited for his orders. Tension hung thick in the air. He could push forward, demand negotiations, maybe even order a test strike to gauge the ship's defenses. But deep down, he already knew how that would end. He took a slow breath. We fall back. A ripple of disbelief spread through the command deck, but no one objected. No one wanted to stay here. The fleet adjusted course. One by one, the ships turned away from Kepler defense line and retreated. Aboard the unnamed human warship, Admiral Hayes watched the Union forces disappear from the sensors. He allowed himself a small, satisfied smirk. Phase 1 is complete, Commander Elise Carter said. They took the bait, Hayes replied. They were never going to fight. Carter nodded. What do we do next? Hayes turned his gaze back to the viewport, where the stars stretched infinitely before him. Now, he murmured. Now we let them realize they've already lost. Inside the Union's War Council at Xerxes Prime, the atmosphere was suffocating. High Chancellor Orland sat at the head of the chamber, his expression unreadable as footage from Vra's fleet played on the central display. The warship had never fired. Yet the Union had retreated. They didn't even fight us, one council member whispered. They didn't need to. Orland exhaled. They're showing us the blade before they decide to use it. The Union was at a crossroads. They could attempt diplomacy, but what did they have to bargain with? They could rally their forces, but how did one prepare for war against an enemy that had already won? Orland clenched his jaw. He would not surrender. He would not allow humanity to dominate the galaxy unchecked. But every instinct told him the same thing. The Union's fate was no longer in their hands. It was in humanity's. The Galactic Union had existed for over 1,000 years. It had survived wars, economic collapse, rebellions, external threats. It had bent but never broken, until now. Humanity had done something no empire, no warlord, no species had ever accomplished. They had shattered the Union's will without firing a second shot. Across the galaxy, fear took root. The Elvari, once proud and unshakable, began pulling their fleets back from contested regions, unwilling to risk provoking humanity further. The Zith Dominion, known for ruthless expansion, suddenly halted its military campaigns. Its warlords were unsure whether humanity was watching from the shadows. Trade routes collapsed. Diplomats scrambled to salvage alliances that were already crumbling. Whispers of surrender spread through high councils. In the darkest corners of space, some even suggested the unthinkable, that the Union should submit to Earth before it was too late. Then the final message arrived. It was not sent through official channels. It was not delivered by an ambassador. It simply appeared on every planetary communication system, every military console, every leader's private screen. The war was over before it began. You just didn't know it yet. Earth does not seek conquest. We do not need war. But if you ever lift a hand against us again, there will be nothing left of you. The Union's leaders, already crumbling under their own terror, knew what had to be done. One by one, the great empires of the galaxy quietly stopped their war plans. Defensive fleets were recalled. Skirmishes along human borders ceased. The once proud Galactic Union, an alliance that had ruled for a millennium, was reduced to nothing more than fractured, obedient states. No treaty was ever signed. No formal surrender was ever issued. But the message was clear. Humanity did not rule the galaxy through force. They ruled through certainty. The certainty that if the Union ever dared to challenge them again, it would be the last mistake they ever made. As Admiral Hayes watched the last of the Union's fleets withdraw from contested space, he allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. The war had never been about territory. It had never been about conquest. It had been about setting a precedent. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. That era was over. He turned to Commander Elise Carter. It's done. Carter nodded, exhaling slowly. What happens now? Hayes smiled faintly. Now we watch. And we wait. Because there would always be someone who forgot the lesson humanity had taught the galaxy today. And when they did, Earth would be there to remind them.